claims. So, I see this, and I see, number one, I see the thesis of his book, and number two, I see the conclusion. This is what Nabil is telling us ahead of time. These two overarching matters are the content of this book. He basically says this in the title. He says that if you read the subtitle, he basically says he's a former Muslim. He's no longer a Muslim. He's a former Muslim because he was willing to investigate the evidence, to examine the evidence for Islam and Christianity. And he says the evidence of history strongly supports the Christian claims. Now, we're going to eventually get into some of this historical evidence. We will talk about this much later in the study. But in this introductory lesson, I really want us to focus on this idea of conversational evangelism. How can we have a meaningful conversation with, first of all, Muslims who do not know Christ, and secondly, the people out in the world today who are talking about Islam? And of course, Nabil is concerned about this as well. We want to have a meaningful conversation. And if we're going to have a meaningful conversation, the most crucial part of having an intelligent conversation is being able to understand and defining your terms. And so this is what he's doing right here. He says there are different ways that the word Allah is used today. And we don't really need to assume a certain understanding. It's dangerous to make assumptions. When someone uses the word Allah, you're gonna hear this quite a bit. It's a simple question, but we should ask them immediately, what do you mean by Allah? And so Nabil is going to give us how the term is used today. And number one, he has, of course, the Unitarian God of Islam. This is no doubt the most popular use of the word today, probably. Whenever someone hears the word Allah, they automatically think of Islam. And, we recognize that. But the point is, there are other ways to use this word. And what's important is not so much the term itself, but what's important is the meaning and the context of the word that's being used. Words are just symbols. The meaning is determined by the person using it and the context in which they are speaking. So we need to ask this clarifying question. They may be a Muslim, and if they are, they're going to let you know that when you ask them, what do you mean by Allah? They're going to tell you that Allah is absolutely and completely one, indivisibly one. He has no associates, no partners, and most importantly, he has no son. This is the Unitarian God of Islam. He's one in being and one in person. But Allah can also mean God in a generic sense, very much like the English word God. If you read an English translation of the Bible, it's obviously translating the word Elohim as God. The English word God doesn't come from the Hebrew. It doesn't come from the Greek. It doesn't come from the Aramaic. It's actually Germanic. So the word can be used in this way. I realize some Christians may struggle with this, but the point is we want to understand how somebody's using it to have that conversation with them in a meaningful way. And then third, Nabil says that Arabic-speaking Christians may be referencing the triune God of the Bible by using the term Allah. This happens, folks. And this is a very important point. Again, Christians may struggle with this, but this is truth. When an Arabic-speaking Christian speaks of God as Allah, they're speaking of the triune God of the Bible. They're talking about Yahweh. And so we need to understand this context. We need to understand what they mean when they use this term. If you look at an Arabic translation of the Bible, you're going to find the word Elohim is translated as Allah, and then Yahweh, which is the personal name of God, is translated into an Arabic word that represents Lord, very much like what you see in the the Old Testament today. And by the way, whenever you see the word Lord in all caps in the Old Testament, that is the Tetragrammaton, the personal name of God. It's Yahweh. I'm surprised at the Christians that don't realize this. Very important point. If you see the word Lord in all caps, it means much, much more than just ruler, master. It literally means Yahweh. And then lastly, we see that the bill says it can be used, Christians referring to the first person of the Trinity, the Father. This use is not very common, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. We can handle it. We can respond to it in much the same way that I've already told you. Simply ask the person that we're talking to define their terms. Simply ask them what is meant by the word Allah. Context, context, context. This is crucial. We have got, I hate to keep hammering this point, I just think this is so important, because Christians today, I've often wondered what Arabic-speaking Christians think about some of the memes that they see on Facebook. I've seen some here lately that says, Allah is a demon, Allah is Satan. And a lot of good and well-meaning apologists are doing this. I'm not attacking them for doing it. I may do it myself someday. All I'm saying is, when we're having those conversations with somebody that perhaps they look like they're from the Middle East, we may perceive that they are a Muslim, but we shouldn't assume that. We should come to understand the context in which they are using that word and ask them to clarify the term that they are using. So important in evangelism today.